Dangerous stuff. Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Time for the papers now. Liz, good morning to you once again.
Good morning.
And you're posing the question, who would be 18? Especially waiting for Thursday and those A-level results.
Well, always a nerve-wracking week, this, in the run-up to the A-level results, but this year more than ever. You know, record numbers set to miss out on places at university, despite having the grades. Those that do get into university set to incur huge debts that will dog them for the first 10 or 15 years of their working lives. That's if they get a job, because there's no guarantee of them coming out what the job market will be like.
And then they're going to get taxed extra as well, still in the air.
Still, you know, yes, exactly.
Graduate tax.
Who would be 18 today? Certainly not me.
Yeah, and you know, when you're setting off on life and looking with optimism, whatever, I mean, it's a pretty bleak picture, isn't it, for them now?
I think it really, really is. And the Independent's front page this morning really sums that up. You know, we've had these stories running for the last week, and it is the big story of the week. Unifying all the papers, they're split on most other things.
And I can bet you on Thursday, when we get record results, everyone's done really well, everyone will come out and say, oh, yeah, but of course they're much easier now. And, you know, they're not hard enough, and we need to...
Well, I mean, it is a combination of things. It's a haphazard expansion of universities the last 20 years. It's grade inflation, no question, coming up against the economic situation. And this is what we've got, you know, the sort of perfect storm, to use two cliches, one after another, you know, looking like it's going to create this lost generation.
Right, let's go camping then, carry on camping.
Yes, I have to say this has passed me by, really, but these communities that are apparently springing up on the outskirts of London, of people in camper vans or tents who choose or are only able to work in London 2 or 3 days a week, can't afford accommodation, and so they're happy campers.
That's very enterprising, isn't it?
Yeah. And then heading off down to Cornwall, Suffolk, or in some cases living in France. It sounds absolutely ideal.
Was it a long weekend? Le weekend, yeah. I wouldn't like to try it in December, though. All right at the moment. But,
I think this may be a seasonal occurrence, and you would like to check out the quality of your shower blocks and your lavatory.
I think you would pick your location quite carefully, wouldn't you, on that one,
certainly would.
Without being rude to Epping Forest or Lee Valley, I mean, how green is your valley there, one wonders?
Well, it's definitely the Olympic site
that
has fuelled this, but I suspect it's something that could be taken up, you know, spring, summer next year.
£12.30 to £16.40 a night for a one-person pitch. Try getting a hotel room for that in central London, eh?
Maybe MPs should think about it.
Yeah, you couldn't even get the breakfast for that, could you, really? Yeah. Right, Lennon's advice to singer arrives 34 years late.
I think this is a very poignant story. A folk singer called Steve Tilston, when he was 21, gave an interview to a magazine saying how he feared that his songwriting ambitions would be threatened by lack of money. John Lennon, then I think age 30, read it and sent him a letter saying, you know, money doesn't matter. Well, it was easy for him to say, wasn't it? Money doesn't matter, keep on going. The letter was never delivered. He only became aware of it 5 years ago, and a letter collector, someone who collects Beatle memorabilia, contacted him and asked him if he was the Steve Tilston concerned.
So he never actually got it?
He never got the letter, and what's particularly poignant is that it's a very friendly note from John Lennon, and he includes his home number. So he obviously wanted him to call, and who knows what would have happened if he'd made that contact.
Worth now £7,000.
Not very much, really, is it? But
well, yeah, because he used to do the little doodles on the letters and notes as well, worth a lot. So yeah. Right, well, Mr. Crouch.
Yes.
Looking as if he's lunched well, as they say.
Absolutely. I mean, the on-off exploits of Abby Clancy and her ring, which was off last week after last weekend's revelations or allegations about Crouch's misbehaviour, then was on again towards the end of the week, and now is definitely off again.
Not just that, though. I mean, cigarette in hand. I mean, remember the Rooney picture. I mean, what are these people doing when they're paid as top-flight footballers?
And you just wonder about their lung capacity. You really do.
Yeah, or their liver capacity as well, looking at them.
And his hand on another lady's leg.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to mention that.
Holding that cigarette.
I mean, Joe Cole got red-carded yesterday, but if Abby Clancy had any sense, she'd be doing it to Peter Crouch. I suspect she won't, though.
Yeah, maybe he was just looking for the box of matches. I don't know. Oh, yeah. And very quickly, Alan Milburn has taken a job with a coalition.
He has.
So it is now Labour Lib Dem and Conservative coalition?
I'm just baffled as to why David Cameron feels the need to give sort of discredited Labour politicians who must bear responsibility, you know, collectively for what the situation we're in, jobs in the new coalition. So much for new beginnings.
Yeah, New Labour.
Don't understand it.
Right, Liz, thank you very much indeed. On that note, and don't forget your emails coming in on that first 100 days of the coalition. But yes, and who can blame them? Thank you very much indeed for that, Nick. More sport to come. But you've been emailing us this morning, particularly on, well, sort of matron and the hospital wards.
Yes, and apparently there's going to be an announcement that there'll be an end to mixed-sex hospital wards. Lots of people getting in touch this morning. Steve Cattell says all hospitals have more than 2 wards, so 1 male and 1 female minimum. He reckons it should be easy to sort out. Glenn Handley says we've been promised this many times over the last 20 years, so he's sceptical as to whether it will happen or not. Isaac said, why should it have happened a long time ago? He says we aren't all 8-year-olds, it's only the opposite sex after all. Steve Kent asked if other countries have mixed hospital wards. He says it does seem odd, but it wouldn't bother him anyway. And Steve Albury says if you've ever been so unfortunate as to be in one, then yes. And he says also those gowns with the backs flying open, they're really not good. So it's a lot of questions about privacy as well, I guess, that are worrying some people to do with mixed-sex wards.
Thank you very much. Keep them coming. News@sky.com 84501. Now, let's get an update now on the weather with Lucy.
Yes, closer to home, we're also going to see some wet weather, not only for us, but across northern parts of Europe today, through the Low Countries and France, and for the western side of Britain as the night goes on.
And, of course, we'll update you as we get more on the ACAS talks due to begin later in the morning. But first, let's get an update now with Charlotte and the rest of the day's news.
Thanks, Mark. Mixed-sex wards in NHS hospitals in England are to be abolished, according to reports this morning. The Health Secretary, Andrew Lansley's... Now, if you're lamenting the end of the hit TV show Lost, then fear not, because all is not lost. The series came to an end earlier this year, but already some of the items used to make the programme are being auctioned. Organisers are expecting around 2,000 people to register for the auction, which takes place later this month. And it'll certainly give the phrase, "get lost," a whole new meaning.
Does it come with an explanation as to actually what went on?
No,
as well?
and also what that giant chicken head was. I did watch Lost and I've no idea what that was.
No.
Maybe they've snuck some things in just to confuse
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Spare props.
Yeah.
Thank you. A look at course, back to Jane and indeed to ACAS throughout the rest of the day as we see if those talks bring any kind of settlement. Time, though, for the rest of the day's news with Charlotte.
Thanks, Mark. Mixed-sex wards in NHS hospitals in England are to be abolished, according to reports this morning. The Health Secretary, Andrew Lansley's confirmed he'd be making a statement. And dramatic videos emerged at the moment a truck crashed into a group of spectators watching a desert race in California. 8 people were killed. The driver of the truck did manage to survive. 12 others watching the California 200 events in the Mojave Desert were also injured.
Dreadful scenes. Thank you very much indeed for those headlines, Charlotte. But let's go.
The Live Desk opens now. This morning, the Liberal Democrats have more power than any time in the past 88 years. We'll be live in Westminster shortly. Drink and drugs, how hundreds of desperate children are seeking help for their addict parents at the other end of a phone. And warming up nicely for the US Open, Murray claims his first title of the season in Toronto. But first, at 9 o'clock, Britain's largest airport operators due to meet unions shortly to try to avoid a strike which could close 6 British airports, bringing chaos to tens of thousands of holidaymakers. Workers are threatening industrial action over pay and could walk out over the bank holiday weekend. Jane Dougal has more.
The walkout